This week is a conversation with Natasha Devi, a former lawyer who quickly found her dharma after sitting in Peru with ayahuasca. She is now a full-blown medicine woman, advocate for Pachamama, a mother, and a facilitator for earth medicine retreats in the Amazon in Peru. Highlights from this episode: how her spiritual awakening guided her to Peru, her family's take on her medicine path, her first kambo ceremony, how she passed out 4 times and had potent jungle visions, her take on marijuana as a spiritual medicine, and her experience as being both a mother and medicine woman. You can find all of Natasha's information, her Instagram, as well as her website in the show notes. And be sure to check out those show notes. A new feature I've added on this season is including previous podcast topics which relate to the topics we cover within this episode.
You are listening to the School of Whispers podcast. I'm your host, Stephanie, and this is my space to get real, open, and weird about my life experiences as a psychic, medium, energy healer, and student of Chinese medicine. On the show, I'll be sharing my healing journey and the concepts I've learned along the way, and I'll be having guests on talking about the same sort of thing. I am so happy you're here, and I hope this show leaves you feeling inspired and empowered to learn how to listen to the whispers of your own body and spirit. Let's get into the show.
Natasha, thank you so much for being here. And I just want to, what I was going to say is I'm going to wait till we record, is the 2 things that really drew me to you was, one, when we were in that space for the hape, and a woman was talking about ayahuasca, and then a couple other people were really excitedly talking about it, and you were quiet until you said, well, because she was saying she's so afraid. And that's when you spoke. You're like, well, that's normal. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know you. And I just was like, oh, I like her. I like that she said that. And you said it's almost like a respect. Mm-hmm. And then when I felt called to ask people, what do you do for a living? Then I found out you're a medicine woman. I was like, oh my God. So that's when I asked to connect. And then the second thing was when we were talking through Instagram, you sent me a voice memo. And your babies were screaming in the background. You were like, hold on. And you're like, guys. And I could hear the smile in your voice. Like, yeah. Guys, why are we screaming? And like, I've worked with a lot of kids in the past, and I come from a family. So, but just hearing the way you were talking to your kids was so, I was like, oh my gosh, I really, really want to be in ceremony with her.
Aww, yeah.
I would love to dive into your path. You have a lot of information on your website, but if you don't mind, and leaving out whatever you don't feel comfortable sharing, but you're a medicine woman, and I admire and respect that path so much. I want to be on that path. So I just love to hear about the call and all of that good stuff.
So I got into this I've always been interested in plant medicine. Always been interested in it. Not these big medicines that I'm working with now, but I've always been interested in natural medicines. I think it's in my culture. I grew up Hindu, and we do a lot of, grew up Hindu, but my family's from Guyana, and we do a lot of at-home remedies for everything. So I've always been interested in this. But what led me to this is depression, actually. I needed to heal myself. So that led me into this path. I was living in New York at the time. I was really depressed. I had just gotten a job as an attorney. I was really happy about it, I thought. Started working, not so happy, not what I thought I was going to be doing. Was not in a great relationship. Just everything, little things in every part of my life weren't aligned. And I just kept thinking, this cannot be what God had in store for me. It cannot be this. So I remember that I had a cousin who had went to Peru before. So when I was in law school, one of my cousins came to visit me, and he told me about him and about how he had went to try ayahuasca and how it helped him so much. And when I got to my low point, I remembered that. It just kept going off in my head about my cousin. And then I started seeing all the signs. You know, I saw ayahuasca on the internet. I was seeing Peruvian restaurants. I was seeing everything related to this. And I was like, okay, yeah, okay, let me follow.
Hear you.
Yeah. So I did. I looked online for a retreat, and I found one. The name of it just resonated with me. And so then I went down there. I was desperate to heal myself. You know, growing up, I was always told, yeah, just stay busy or change this and it'll be okay, or change that and it'll be okay. And I couldn't do that. I knew I couldn't do that. So I just booked my ticket and I went by myself. It was my first solo trip. And I went down there, and I sat with kambo and ayahuasca on that trip. And those medicines led me back to myself. I asked, and my intention really was, with the medicines, to show me that everything that I need is already here. And it's like, I know that already, but I needed some kind of reminder. I needed that confirmation, and I got it. I got it with ayahuasca and kambo. And yeah, and then I just went from there. I got so much healing, and I said, I want to share this with everybody. Like, especially my friends and family, I wanted to introduce them to this, because, I mean, it doesn't matter like how bad you are feeling. There are things out there that can help you. And I decided I was going to live down there, because it was a little nerve-wracking for me to go down there, because I didn't know the language and I was by myself. And I said, no, I'm going to go down there, and I'm going to hold space for my friends and family to come down. And yeah, and that's been my my calling, and that's what I've been doing, and just everything's kind of just been lining up. You know, they say if you start following your heart, the universe will work with you, and it's true.
Right, like you don't have to fight upstream anymore.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah, that's partly why I've been feeling the call for kambo recently. I have two questions from that. The first is, how did your family handle you doing it and then you wanting to share it?
So I told my family that I was going down for healing. I told them I was going to a yoga retreat, because everything's drugs to my family, yeah, to most of my family anyway. So I told them that, and then I went and I had my experiences, and I came back and I shared with them. And my mom came with me on the next trip, which, believe me, shocked me more than anybody else, because I never thought that was going to happen. But I shared with her, you know, in one of my first big Aya ceremonies. So I had 5, and it's important to note that when you sit with ayahuasca, sometimes it just wants to clean you at first, especially if you didn't keep up with a diet, or if you've just been doing too many bad things kind of before, because it does work in the gut. So my first 3 ceremonies were just purging. And then my 4th ceremony was my big ceremony, and all the dead relatives that I had came to visit me, and my friends who had passed away came to visit me. And I shared that with my mom, and she wanted to visit with the, you know, people who had passed. So that's why she agreed to come down and do this. Yeah. And that's how they were. And slowly, like, I have some of my family asking me stuff. I've had a cousin come down and visit me. Some friends come down and visit me already. And over here, since when I come back to the States, I've shared medicine with some of them here, which is beautiful. And some of them are not ready. And I've learned that not to push, and just whenever anyone is ready, they'll find me. And I make peace with that now, because sometimes I'm like, damn, what are you doing? Why are you taking all these pills? Why are you doing all this shit? And you could just work with natural medicine and heal yourself. But I've realized that everyone is on their own journey, and I need to respect that. And that's all.
One of my close friends, she's Indian, her family's from Guyana, and she does Vedic astrology, and she helped me realize that different souls have different purposes in this lifetime, and it helped me come to terms with my family might not ever reach a healing on the level that you find on a medicine path in this lifetime. And it kind of gave me, I guess, a sense of surrender and peace to just like chill, step away.
Yeah.
And then did you decide right then and there during that first ayahuasca retreat, I'm moving?
Yes. I decided before I went there, actually.
What?
Before I went there, I started selling all my stuff in New York because I knew I just didn't want to be in New York. And I had too much stuff. So I started getting rid of stuff. And when I landed in Iquitos, it just felt like home. So I had this feeling of home. And I had this feeling, okay, I wanted to find out, like, is it cheap to live here? Because maybe I can just be, like, after the retreat, I was like, is it cheap to live here? Can I just kind of be here and figure it out from here? So that's what I decided. After the retreat, I went back and I just sold the rest of my stuff. And then I the plan was I was just going to be there for a couple of months because it is very cheap to live there. Mm-hmm. So I was just going to live there for a couple of months and kind of make my way to India is what I wanted to do. But there were other plans. There were other plans for me, and I'm still there 5 years later.
Wow.
Yeah.
Were there any physical ailments? Because when I've done all my research with kambo, a lot of people do it for autoimmune, or I'm personally doing it because I've been struggling, and I've talked about this a lot on the podcast. I've been struggling with having herpes. Mm-hmm. And I also live somewhere with toxic mold, and it's just, I'm studying Chinese medicine, and, you know, I'm doing all the right things, but my body is still, it's not whispering, it's yelling, something is wrong. And so I was like, okay, let's bring out the big guns. I know this is more than physical. I know it's energetic. I know it's emotional. I know that it's also ancestral because my abuela, she died of uterine cancer. So like, I know my whole reproductive system has a lot of ancestral healing and work to do. So yeah, because you've done more medicine ceremonies was there any sort of illness that you were working on healing with kambo specifically?
For myself?
Mm-hmm.
No. For myself, I really just went there the first time. I went there for ayahuasca, and on the website for this retreat center, it said that they also share kambo. And it talked about kambo. It said all these different things that it can help with. But what really stood out to me is it said it can help with, it strengthens your intuition, and it works with your fight or flight response. So I was like, ooh, yeah, that sounds interesting. So I wanted to do that. And what I got from my ceremony, my first one, I passed out 4 times, which is not normal. Yeah. You know, sometimes people pass out. That's normal. 4 times is not normal. I passed out, I came back, I passed out, I came back, I passed out, you know, and, but when I passed out, I had a beautiful vision, and I was in the jungle walking with my dad and my grandmother who had passed away, and they were leading me to this waterfall, and it felt like I had been gone for hours with them. And when I came back, I was soaking wet because they had poured water on me to bring me back, and that's usually what happens if you pass out with kambo. Water should bring you back. Well, it did bring me back, and then I passed out again. So they put lime in my mouth. Lime is like that's the secret. You know, like if there's actually a problem, lime should help bring you back. And it did. But I feel like so much cleared. So now that I'm working with kambo, I notice when people pass out with it, I feel after talking with them that they are clearing like bad eye. They are clearing negative energy that people had wished on them, or they're clearing like these blocks that they've just been holding and they didn't even know they're holding on to it. So after that kambo session, everything just started to align for me. And it was like nothing's in my way anymore. I didn't care about any, like, the opinions of other people. I was like, no, I know I want to follow my heart, and I don't care anymore. I'm just doing it. That's how I felt after my kambo.
Were you always like that as a person?
I've always been the kind of person that I follow my own instincts, but I wasn't so laser focused like that. I am definitely laser focused now, but I wasn't always like that. So the opinions of others always, they would kind of not influence me, but bother me when I'm on my path. It does not bother me anymore. I don't care what anybody says. I'm just so focused on what I'm doing and set in it now. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's amazing. That's so cool. And do you have a lot of siblings?
I have one sister, one brother.
Okay, and do they all see you and they're all just like, Natasha over here doing her woo woo shit, or do they respect and see you as you are?
Here and there.
Yeah.
Yeah, here and there. And I've learned with time to just not care about it. Yeah. It used to bother me at first when I would hear things that people would think about me or say about me. I finally came to this realization. I finally accepted that whatever anybody else is thinking is a reflection of them. It has nothing to do with me. So I just let it go now.
So I'm going to get into a couple of the questions that people have asked. So the first one is, what your thoughts on for ayahuasca for those with previous diagnosed mental illness?
Ayahuasca can help so much with depression and PTSD and things like this. But you should talk to your shaman. It's more important that you talk to your shaman when you're considering, if you have any mental illness, that you talk to your shaman and disclose, never hide anything. It's really important that you are honest with the person that's serving the medicine, and everybody kind of has their own way of serving and their own way of preparation, so it really goes based on who you're sitting with.
Yeah, this book I read about, actually, no, he's not in Iquitos. He's outside of Iquitos. His name is, I'm not sure if he's still alive, Don Agustin Vasquez something. Mm-hmm. I don't know. But he worked with a man who was severely mentally ill, and they realized it's because his father shook him as a child. Oh. Yeah, and he was saying, really, the thing is that the medication, because of the interactions with serotonin and how ayahuasca works with the serotonin. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know if...
It's the medication. That's why it's important you talk to whoever it is that you're sitting with, because they might be comfortable serving you medicine. They may have the experience of it, or they may not. So definitely talk to whoever it is. I do believe they say if you're on certain antidepressants, you should not, because it's going to interact. But I also know some shamans, native shamans from the jungle, that say it's okay and they know how to help you through it. So
that's so cool.
Mm-hmm.
What is the native tribe that you've been working with?
Shipibos.
Mm-hmm. What has that been like?
Interesting. It's been interesting. I have a good relationship with many of the Shipibo families in Iquitos and in Pucallpa. I love working with them. I notice that I work a lot with the mothers. It's more the mothers that I'm working with, and they all, not all, but most of them come to me and say, "You work with the Shipibo moms. You're one of us." And it's beautiful. I don't know. It's beautiful. I feel like I'm learning from them. They're also learning little things with me. They don't work with kambo, so I've shared kambo with many of that community, and it's been nice. It's a give and take. We're sharing together. Yeah, it's a nice relationship.
The next question is how does one best prepare for kambo 1 month out, 1 week out, and then the day of?
1 month out, no, you don't really need to do anything a month out. The week, it's better if you don't eat heavy meats, pork. Shipibos also say this when you're doing ayahuasca, stay away from pork. They feel like pork is like one of this heavy meats that just stays sticky in your body kind of thing. Kambo works better if you're not, if it doesn't have a lot of excess gunk to have to clear out. So you should also do your part in that week and try and eat better. Stay hydrated. No alcohol is better. The day before, absolutely shouldn't, not absolutely. You shouldn't have alcohol, or else your kambo session will be crazy strong. It wants to clean you. What's alcohol? Alcohol is really like a toxin in the body. So it's going to try and clean you this way. It's going to be harder session. Yeah, just well rested is better, because you have to work in your kambo session. It's not like you take the medicine and like a pill and you just sit there. No, you work. You put in your work too. Kambo's going to work and you're going to work. Yeah, that's all really. The day before, I like to do sessions in the morning, because then you would have fasted all night. So you want to definitely have an empty stomach, because you're purging. The purge is much better if you're not purging chunks and you're purging just liquid. And the purge is very different than if you were sick throwing up. Mm-hmm. It's definitely different. You feel different. You'll feel it. you'll feel what that's like, and you can share. But yeah, the most important is that day before preparation.
Okay. When I did ayahuasca, my puking was actually, I only puked twice within the 2 days, and it was pretty easy. It almost felt like someone had their hand down me and pulling things out.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Is it kind of similar to that?
No.
Okay.
So the purge in kambo is, it wants to clean the bile. You have bile sitting. Everybody has bile. So the water acts like a carrier to pull the bile out. The bile is just sitting concentrated and thick inside you. The water helps to pull it out of you. So if you don't drink enough water you don't want to drink too much water. This is why it's good you have a practitioner who understands this. But you want to drink, like I recommend you drink 1.5 liters before we start. And now the water's in there. You're going to start purging. And when you start purging, you can drink more to help pull out the toxin, pull out the bile. And it's definitely different. You might feel your stomach cramping because it's like the inside is trying to push the bile out, and you feel that. But with water, it doesn't hurt so much because now it has something to help push it out. Yeah.
Okay.
It's definitely different, though.
Yeah. And for those who are listening, they're kind of just like, well, what is kambo? I recommend you look at Natasha's website. She's extremely comprehensive of what it is, the history, the peptides, everything about it. And if you're wondering why should you do it, I recommend. I'll probably link. I don't know. Yeah, obviously I'll link your website too. But it sounds like it's incredible. Like it's like I mentioned earlier, it's the forgotten medicine. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. So next question is your opinion on marijuana as a plant medicine, if it belongs in the category of all these healing medicines such as sananga and hape and kambo. And my personal question with it is if kambo and marijuana get along.
Absolutely. I think marijuana is a medicine if you have intention with it. I think all these natural plants, most of them have, if not all of them, have medicinal value. It's a matter of knowing what that is and sitting with intention. A lot of people sit with marijuana and they don't have the intention, or they are abusing. They're using it for other purposes, usually to numb. I know a lot of people use it to kind of numb or to kind of drown out the other noise in the world kind of thing. This is not a medicinal way to use marijuana. You should have intention with it. I mean, there are cultures who are using this actually medicinally. And I mean, even in the US, we are using it medicinally. But for spiritual reasons, for sure, there's many cultures using marijuana in this way. I use it in this way. Kambo and marijuana go together so good. I love the combination of cannabis and kambo. Before or after. If you do before, cannabis acts as it works to alleviate nausea. So when you're in a kambo ceremony and you had just had cannabis, you're not going to feel the need to purge.
Oh, that's dangerous.
Well, it's not dangerous. What I find is I go deeper with kambo. I end up sitting with it and meditating with kambo and I work with it definitely in a more spiritual way when I don't have the strong physical aspect of it. I don't recommend that for a first time because it takes away from what kambo in itself is, but you can definitely use the two together. I think they work beautifully together. We held a cannabis kambo ceremony in St. Pete last month, and we'll do it again in January and February, I believe. So it's beautiful medicine to work together.
That's so cool. I've been having a little bit of a hard time because I always try to bless and set intention before smoking. Always. But sometimes when I listen, I have no reason, no intention, no reason, nothing to ask of it. But then I do it anyways. And I'm like, shit. And so like I'm moving through that with the judgment as well as the dependency in a sense. But I loved hearing that. It is medicine. I think we forget. I think we see it. I know I see it. I judge myself and as using it as a distraction, as a security blanket. But it's so much more than that. When you meditate with kambo and marijuana, do you do a microdose or a full dose?
A full dose.
Yeah.
I do a full dose. I don't think there's a true. You mean a full dose of kambo? Mm-hmm. I don't think there's a true microdose. Okay. People say that there's this microdose of kambo, but you can have a full purge with 1 dot. I've seen that. I've seen people go full in with 1 point. So I don't know if that's a real thing. Yeah.
And how do you intuit how many dots somebody gets?
I almost never share more than 3 points with anyone because it is so strong medicine. It's stronger when you use saliva. If you're using water to mix the medicine, it waters down the medicine. This is why people have 7, 10 points. You don't need it. And whoever is doing that, please stop doing that. You're wasting this medicine. You can just use 2 or 3 points with saliva and it's going to be stronger than the 7 with water. Yeah.
So I'm assuming this is going to be a really strong experience.
Yes, it is.
Okay, and then the last question from Instagram is, what is it like on this medicine path as a medicine woman and also a mother? And do you think your kids will ever partake in plant medicine?
I'm so grateful that I am on this path and that I did some of my work before my kids came into the world because it really helped me understand my emotions and understand what I didn't want to repeat. I mean, I've always had an idea of what I didn't want, but being in this path and doing the work for myself, it just showed me a way. I guess it just showed me a way to regulate my emotions. I think that's the most important thing as a parent is that you know your own emotions so you're not taking anything out on the kids because things happen all around in the world, in your world, and you have your kids and they're innocent to all that stuff. And so we have to, figure out a way to deal with our stuff so we don't put it on them. And yeah, so I'm grateful that I'm on this path and I've done this. I started doing some of the work before. Don't let that not motivate you if you already have kids and you're on now starting this path. It's never too late to look at yourself. Yeah. And I have no idea what my kids will do. I mean, everyone's, when I was pregnant, I sat with medicine. I was in ayahuasca ceremonies with both my kids, and people tell me that they have a look in their eyes, or people tell me that they see something with them, and who knows? I think all these little kids that are coming out in these days have something a little extra special, and that might be because we as this generation are doing work to break out of cycles from before in the bloodline, But yeah, I will for sure encourage my kids to do whatever they want and encourage them more if they decide to go in medicine. Yeah.
And because I know in Amazonian cultures, kids, I mean, they start with ayahuasca at least at 14, like it's a coming of age.
Before.
Really?
Oh, before. The shamans that I work with, they told me that they started... their parents would start giving them ayahuasca when they were like 7 or 8. They would start, and it was little small doses, like a spoon, but small to get it in the system. Slowly, just have that be a part of you. Yeah.
Cool. All right. On your website, you mentioned plant dietas, and in the 2 books that I've been reading, they talk a lot about dietas, and it really inspired me as somebody. Well, when I'm at my worst, I believe I am the sickest person in the world, and I have so much inside of me that's going to kill me, and I know that's not true, but I know that side of it that's a little bit less dark, a little bit more light, really motivates me to try different plant medicines and to want to dedicate myself to this path. And so I'd love to hear maybe about 1 or 2 dietas that you offer.
Well, the dietas are always based on the shaman who's there, and I have a shaman named Elias who's coming next month, and he's going to be holding a mapacho diet. Yeah, I know. I thought that might interest you when we were talking earlier. And I'll tell you about mapacho. Actually, I'll tell you about mapacho and bobinsana. So I brought bobinsana with me because I heard a lot of people are working with bobinsana, especially in Florida. But to do a proper diet, you should have the proper part of the plant. Yeah. So when you do diet with bobinsana, it's a paste that it depends on the shaman you're working with and why you are sitting with bobinsana, because they can use the roots, they can use the flower, they can use different parts of the plant for diet. So I brought a paste, and with this paste, you take a gram of this paste every day, and it's heart-opening medicine. So it should visit you in your dreams, especially, and you will get messages from this plant. And always you sit with intention. But when you do the plant, if you're doing a diet here, it's very different than if you do a diet in a traditional sense. The people that are doing diets here are not doing diets in the traditional sense. A traditional diet with the Shipibos is like when we're going to do the mapacho one, they make a tea from the mapacho, and it's horrible tasting. I mean, think about drinking tobacco. That's what you're doing. I did this once, and I needed to be encouraged to finish drinking. And then immediately I had absolutely no energy, and I just fell out on the floor, and I dragged myself to my room because I had no energy. And then I was purging, and then my dreams were the most intense I've ever had in my life. Like, I thought it was all real. I woke up not knowing if I was in a dream or if it was real. But mapacho works like this. It works in your dreams. But when you do this diet, you're in complete solitude. You should be in complete solitude, meaning no books, no music, no instruments, no nothing, no cell phone. I see a lot of people going to the jungle and doing diets, and they have their cell phone and posting how they are doing diet. You're not doing diet. You're not doing diet if you're on your phone. You have to be in silence. The purpose, and you don't talk to anybody except the shaman who you are working with. And the purpose of this is because you want to be, diet is because you want this plant to be your teacher. You want this plant to teach you. And you're going to learn from the plant, from the shaman, and from yourself. And you need complete silence to actually do this. And diets should be a week that you're doing, at least a week, ideally a month. Yeah.
The book I was reading, he literally lived in a tree during all his dietas.
Yes.
When he actually talked about at one point, his shaman wanted him to do mapacho diet, but they didn't call it that, but he said, like, bring it as like a liter or two of tobacco water, tobacco tea. And he goes, this is life or death. You live or you die.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Not lying. He wasn't lying if he drank that much.
Yeah, and he ended up, the Yakarunas, the spirits of the jungle, visited him. And he didn't even remember passing out or getting sick or anything. All he remembered was the vision that was clear as day. Yeah. Okay. Okay, I think we're getting close to time. My last, I usually ask like two little questions. You can get as deep or stay as surfacey as you'd like. The first one is, what is a darkness that you've recently found yourself either moving through or on the other side of?
Oh, well, I just went through a lot of darkness that I'm not going to go into detail about, but I went through a lot of darkness in the last year, and I had to find the strength in me to push through this. And me finding that strength was me finding the lessons that I needed to learn from it, and to remember that everything happens for a reason, and to remember that everything's going to be okay, and all is divine. It's all for it. If I choose to move through it and I choose to learn from it, I have nothing to lose and everything to gain. So this helped me so much, and I am on the other side of it now.
Yay.
Yeah.
My friend the other day, she reminded me, she said, we have free will, and like it's a choice.
Yes.
All right. My last question is, what's a food that you have found incredibly healing in your life?
Cacao.
Oh, me too.
Yeah, cacao. During my pregnancies, I drank a lot of cacao. Also, it helps with breast milk. So, but I feel like the side effect of it producing breast milk was that, well, not just that my milk was richer for my children, but my heart was more open. Yeah, cacao. Cacao is nurturing in so many ways.
That's my first plant medicine, the one that where I had my first visions and my first connections with my ancestors and also other people's passed on loved ones.
Oh,
where I was like, and that honestly, because of cacao, I am who I am right now. So I love that.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much. Is there anything, or do you feel like we covered what you would like to share?
There's one line from Bob Marley that I always remember, and I think it's a good message for everyone. Emancipate yourself from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free our mind. It's up to you to push through whatever it is you are going through.